Hello, and welcome back to Crafting for Profit Live. We are so glad you're joining us today, and this conversation is very close to our hearts. We're going to talk about how to build a crafty community that supports you as a creative entrepreneur.
So we hear over and over and over again. This is probably one of the things we hear most often from our listeners is how lonely this crafting entrepreneurial journey can feel. Honestly, it's just hard to make friends as a grown up. I mean, I can totally attest to this. Maybe you're working solo from home, or maybe you are living far away from people. Maybe you live in a really rural area, or maybe you're managing health limitations. There's all these reasons that make it really difficult to build this community. So it's really easy to feel like you're on your own, but we promise that you're not.
So, today we're going to share real life strategies to help you find your people. And we're going to share them both online and in person. So, if you're thinking, I live so far out in the middle of nowhere, there are no crafters out here, it's okay. We are going to talk about strategies for you as well. So, we have tips for introverts. If you're introverted and you're like, I can't reach out to people, we've got you. If you have limited time, limited energy, yes, we have tips for you as well. There's a place for you in the crafty world, and we're going to help you find it.
So, as always, this episode is pre recorded, but if you are watching during our live YouTube premiere, you can chat with us over in the comments. We'll be there answering any questions you have about building a community. If you have questions that are related to something else that's crafty and businessy, you can go ahead and leave those in the form that we have. That form is in the YouTube description, and it is also in the podcast notes.
So, first, we're going to talk about why community matters in all of this. And the first thing that we want to talk about is just the mental and emotional toll of working for yourself and working from home, or feeling like you're the only crafter you know. Like you don't have anyone else to talk about crafting or your small business journey. It can just feel very isolating. And eventually it just takes a toll on your mental health. You don't have anyone to discuss this amazing new sublimation printer you got with. You don't have anyone to discuss the fact that the Facebook algorithm is killing your business. You need people to have these discussions with and not feel so isolated in your day to day life.
Yeah, you need people too. Maybe you have the most supportive spouse ever, but he has no idea what sublimation is. Or maybe he is like, I don't know what to tell you about Facebook. Yes, you can commiserate, but he can't commiserate on that same level as somebody going through sort of the same things you are. So having crafty friends who get it, who understand what it's like to run a small crafty business, it can be really vital and life-giving. Because not having that can also be kind of soul crushing. We don't want our souls to be crushed. So hopefully you will get some good ideas in this episode.
And I feel like we're an example by ourselves. We definitely bounce ideas off of each other, or the excitement of this new crafty tool that we've gotten. We can share that with each other and get that immediate feedback. And we are probably as far away as you can get in the United States.
It's true. I'm way up in Washington. Angie's in Tennessee. It's not like we have our community where we see each other all the time. We get together 2, maybe 3 times a year. We have not seen each other this year so far in person. We have built a pretty amazing community online. So it is possible. And I think, Angie, you shared this story on another episode, which I just really loved, was that you were showing all these things you were making with the new U1 UV DTF printer. And you were sharing them with your husband, and he was like, yeah, cool. And then you shared them with us, and we screamed. We were so excited about it. And I was like, that really shows the difference between having someone who supports you and then people who get it.
Yeah, I mean, your husband, he's supportive, right? Like my husband's supportive, but I needed the level of excitement that I was feeling back at me because I was so excited about this new printer and I needed it reflected back in me and someone else to be that excited about it. And he was just like, yeah, cool. And I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Yes, this is very, very cool. It's the coolest cool. So if you are listening to this podcast, we wanted to encourage you that you are already a part of something. Just by being our listeners, you can join us in the chat and chat with us. You can join us in our Facebook groups. We are all over the place. You can follow us on social media. We try and engage. So maybe it's not like we're besties, but you are here. You are a part of our community. This podcast wouldn't exist without you, literally. Angie and I don't want to talk to a wall. We want to talk to you. So you are a part of a community just for being here.
So we're going to kind of break this up into online community and in-person community. So whichever type of community you're looking for, or maybe you need a little both in your life, that's always a great idea. you can kind of divide up our tips and tricks into these two segments. So first, we're going to talk about online community building, because this one is going to be like, you can find crafters online that probably have something in common with you, right? So the first one, especially for small business owners, might be a mastermind group. So a mastermind group is basically a collection of people that probably are all about the same place within their business, and they sort of share their business goals. Now, a mastermind group can be made up of a bunch of crafters that all run handmade businesses, but it can also be made up of a lot of different types of businesses where you can sort of get ideas that are outside of the crafty niche. I've kind of participated in both, and I don't know really which one is better, frankly.
I have found both to be helpful because sometimes you're in a group and with maybe like an accountant and you're like, how am I ever going to find something in common? And then you realize that they're doing some sort of outreach that would actually work perfect for you. And you would never have thought of it because no other crafters are doing it. So a lot of these can come within a community as well. So maybe you're looking within the small, like an entrepreneurial group in your community to try and find a group like this, or maybe your small business administration has small groups like this. They can be free or they can be paid. A lot of times you'll want to start with a free one just as if you're starting to get your business rolling. But at some point, maybe you want something like a paid group where you're getting a lot more, meat from businesses that have been around a while. So depending on where you are in your crafty journey, you can make that decision as well.
And you can start one of these or find one that's already available, either way. If you're looking to start one, kind of decide, like, do you want just a bunch of random small businesses in there? Are you just looking to connect with other crafty small business owners and then sort of reach out to people? Would you like to join this group with me? Let's meet. Keep it on a schedule. That's the main thing with these, is that they tend to fizzle out over time. So keep a schedule. We would meet once a month. It would be via like a Zoom or something like that. And we would discuss these topics. And would you be interested in joining us? That is kind of the thing that I would recommend, to sort of reach out to people and ask, would you be interested?
And like I was saying, so many business owners are lonely and looking for people to bounce ideas off of. So hopefully you will find some people that are willing to start this group with you. And there are a lot of tools that are free that can help. So you can meet over Zoom. Your meetings have to be 45 minutes, I think, or shorter if you want the free Zoom, or somebody might have a paid version for their job. Another one I really like is Voxer. So Voxer is basically like a walkie-talkie app almost, but you can check it whenever you want. So you can go ahead and leave a voice message for the group. And then people can answer at their leisure, right? They don't have to answer in that moment. Marco Polo is the same thing, but with video. So if you're comfortable being on video with other people, sometimes it's nice to see someone's face when they say something. So Marco Polo and Voxer could get you between those in-between times when you're between meetings, help you get past a roadblock, help you make a decision about pricing, all of these things. And then you could also use things like Google Docs or Discord if you want to have a group chat, or Slack, those sorts of things.
And I often find the Zoom is restricted to amount of time, but that's often good, because you want to give each person their set amount of time, and you don't want these to drag on. Yeah. And that's the other thing I was going to mention, is not to get too many people in this, because the meetings could get really long and then people are just going to start dropping out.
Yeah.
So what we used to do, I had a group of 4, I think there were 4 or 5 of us. And we used to you had I think it was a 3-minute timer, and you talked about something that was going well, something that wasn't going well in your business, and something that you thought that they could all help with. And so you had 3 things that you needed to cover in your 3 minutes, and then your time was up. And hopefully you found, something that they could help you with, and whether that was sharing something or giving you some ideas or something like that. And then you got some help out of the call as well.
Yeah. I was looking for advice the other day on a new product I was trying to create, and I just dropped it in the Slack for our little Crafting for a Profit group here. And Angie was like, yeah, that one. And she just helped me make a decision. I just needed that outside perspective. So things like that can be really helpful, having a group like this.
So if the mastermind group is too personal for you, or you're not ready to share that much about your business with total strangers, people you don't know, you could also look for Facebook groups, forums, subreddits that are full of crafty, creative people, small business owners, just a place to connect together and ask your questions or get feedback.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea, just because the more active you are, the more people are going to sort of connect with you, right? You can lurk, but you're not going to make a community lurking, right? So you do need to engage. You do need to understand that some of these groups can be overwhelming. And one thing you need to be really careful of is to not just like promote yourself, right? The goal here isn't necessarily to promote your business to these people. Your goal is to create a connection with other people. These are not your customers, right? These are other entrepreneurs. These are people who are going through the same things you are. So this is not the time to be like, this is why my business is so great. It's more like sharing some of those difficult moments maybe, or does anybody else feel this way? Or can I connect with somebody on this particular, because we do this particular type of craft. I think I want to make sure that you guys are looking at this not as a way to make money, even though this is the Crafting for Profit podcast. This episode really is more how to support yourself on your journey of making money by having a community.
And you can search Facebook, Reddit for whatever terms you're looking for, right? So you can get very specific. Like, I sell tumblers and I want a group of people that sell tumblers. Or you can get very broad. I sell tumblers, but I just want a group of crafters to connect with. So either way, you can search on either of those platforms. I do feel like it's maybe hit or miss for you. So you're going to need to find the group that is active and that you connect with. Not every group is going to be like a smash right out of the gate. So kind of shop around a little bit, join some, have a few conversations. Maybe that group is not the right one for you, but eventually you are going to find your people by doing this.
Yeah. And you can also think about it as, maybe there's like, we have a group on Facebook for entrepreneurs who live in my neighborhood. So again, these are people who are not necessarily crafters, but they are on a similar entrepreneurial journey. Things like that, where you're connecting with other business owners versus your customers. I think that's just a really important distinction to make here. And then next up, we can talk about connecting on social media, love, hate, all of the above to social media. But you can really create connections through social media. Don't necessarily think I'm going to reach out to this famous person that I know and become besties. But if you engage with smaller creators who are kind of on the same journey that you are, hey, I saw that you did this. That's really brilliant. I want to, I think maybe I could do that in my community. That would work really well. Obviously, don't steal other people's ideas, but there's a reason why we all kind of do the same things. They work, right? So I feel like using Instagram DMs, you can send people little voice notes, you can comment, all of these things to build connection. And at some point, you'll see this sort of payoff as you start to be like, okay, I've seen that person's name over and over and over again. And they seem to be genuinely connecting with my work as a business owner. Again, we're not speaking to our customers here. We're speaking to other business owners or other crafters. So you really want to make sure that you have that connection with those people.
Jamila Payne is one that reached out to me via Instagram DM, asked some questions, and we got to chatting. And then we went to an in-person thing together a few times. We have chatted multiple times. She's been in tons of camps. And that's one of the connections I made literally through Instagram DM. And it was just her reaching out. So she just had a question about something and we just chatted back and forth the longest time. So
yeah, we had Lauren Quigley on the podcast a couple episodes ago, and she and Crystal, who works on our team, had just become friends through running a small business together. And Crystal was like, hey, Lauren would be great for the podcast. So she was on our podcast. So, these kind of connections come through authentically trying to connect. You are not trying to force anything. You're not trying to make people feel weirded out or there's a proper amount of communication that doesn't feel overwhelming. But yeah, I think the social media is a great place to do that.
All right. So we want to do our commercial break.
Sure.
All right. So we wanted to plug our merch store today. We'd like to promote our merch store every once in a while, just so that any new listeners or old listeners, if you haven't been there in a while, just so you are aware that we have our merch store. So you can get shirts, hats, mugs, cute stickers. We have all the cute merch for your crafty needs.
We just made a shirt for our last camp that says, for craft organization camp, and it says a hot craft mess, but doing my best or something like that. It's so cute.
I wore it yesterday. Every time I wear it. Yeah, every time I wear it, someone is like, oh my gosh, it's so cute.
It's such a cute, it's got a glue gun on it. It's like one of my favorite designs I've ever done. So you can grab that. We have so many fun, just maker related shirts and hats and all sorts of stuff. So check it out. You can get there from link.craftingcamps.com/merch, MERCH. That's link.craftingcamps.com/merch.
And if you are on YouTube, I went ahead and put the QR code up in the corner, and the URL is running down across the screen. But of course, we put it in the YouTube description and the podcast notes so you can head there and shop our merch store.
All right, so those were our online ideas. Now let's talk about in-person ideas. And as two introverts, we understand that getting to know people in person can be difficult. I think both of us are sort of probably extroverted introverts. Like we can talk to people when needed, but we both prefer to be on our own. And big crowded situations can definitely overwhelm both of us. So we understand. But if you are like an introvert and you have a really hard time talking to people, we understand. We're hoping that some of these tips you can just kind of like put yourself out there. We understand it's not easy. It's nobody wants to just go talk to strangers. Okay, there are probably people out there, but it's not me. It's not Angie. It's Jen. Jen works for us and she is okay talking to strangers.
When we're at something, we're like, Jen, go talk to that person.
And Jen, go figure out what they're doing. she's her team extrovert. So we're going to start by talking about how to meet people at craft fairs. So if you do craft fairs, this is probably my favorite way of meeting people who also are on the same journey as you. I've met some incredible people doing craft fairs here. So my first tip is just to strike up a conversation with the vendor next to you or with other vendors, that you've been put around. So I did a slightly unsuccessful, but very small craft fair last fall. Like it was fine. I made money, but not very much. It was very slow a lot of the time. I got to know those vendors so well because we had no one else to talk to. So we chatted with each other. And now I have all of their phone numbers and we can chat back and forth and say, hey, are you doing this craft fair? Hey, I wanted to do this, but do you know where I sign up for it? Those sorts of questions. And we've become friends. And so I think just chatting with fellow vendors, as hard as it might be, is probably like the number one way to get to know other people that are crafty in your community.
And even if you're not a vendor, if you're an attendee, you can chat with the vendors. I mean, let's just be honest, especially if it's a slow craft fair, they're looking for someone to chat with. So kind of break the conversation ice a little bit.
I don't know if I've told the story on the podcast. Maybe I have already, but I did a craft fair last summer and a gal was looking at my keychains and one of them said book club babe. And she's like, I want to be a book club babe, but I don't have a book club. And I was like, you want to start a book club? I literally just said that to her and she looks at me and she's like, okay. So now we're in a book club. We started a book club. I mean, it literally was that easy. Like it was just so funny because it's like, who does that? But at some point, both of us needed to make friends here. And so now we're in a community. She's not particularly crafty, but she supports my business. She's great. We both read a ton and she's become a really good friend. So I think, just striking up conversations with people, as hard as it is for some people, is a really great way to start.
Yeah, one of the vendors at when I went to this past weekend, she was just talking about it and she was like, yeah, I really want to start like classes locally with some of the stuff that I'm doing. Cause she had some examples there of like, you could pick stuff out and she would assemble it. But she was talking about doing local events. And I was like, oh yeah, that would be awesome. And she was like, and I'll do them and she was listing and she was like, I could do, an event for a book club. And I was like, oh, like I have a book club. And we're always looking for things. And she's like, oh, I have this idea. And she shows me on her phone. And I was like, okay, I need your card. Because it was such a cute craft idea for a book club. And I was like, I totally need your card. So she probably made a sale of several book club members. And I just got to chat with her. So hopefully that will continue when we go.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's hard to chat, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And I think, I just really feel like it's one of those muscles you have to exercise and it's hard and I understand, but you got to do it. So once you kind of have like chatted with somebody at a craft fair, I think the follow-up is really important as well. You can, follow them on their social media, and DM them. You can get their phone number and just chat. You can say, hey, do you want to grab coffee sometime? Hey, do you want to do a collaboration? That's if you're like really getting into like, okay, we're going to like help each other make money. I feel like this is a great way, to not just meet them at the craft fair, but to say, hey, I'm interested in like more. That sounds like a date. It's kind of like a date. It's a friend date. And so like, hey, do you want to grab coffee? Or hey, are you going to be at this next craft fair? Maybe we could get our booths next to each other, that sort of thing.
So our next idea is local groups and meetups. Now, these could be libraries, maker spaces, local art stores, bulletin boards in your community might have little things that you're interested in. Think painting with the twist could be a place you could meet other creators, like those ceramic painting places. Any place where creators might congregate is a place that maybe you want to join in. So join in those events our library has crafting nights. Maybe join in some of those crafting nights, see who's attending, start up conversations that way. I feel like this is way easier because you're sitting and doing something at a lot of these places, and there's time and there's air, and you're going to want to fill that space with something. And so it's often easier for me to sort of strike up a conversation because everyone is obviously needing to talk about something. So it's
Also,
often easier.
and you're not interrupting like a sale for them. Like you're not distracting them from running their booth. I mean, it's you can talk to the other vendors, but like this is such a great way. We have a crafting night once a month at our library, and I love going to it because it's me and then it's my book club friend that I talked about before. And like, I don't know, 5 people in their 70s. And I just love it. I love that you can craft at any age. And like one woman was hand quilting and another woman was knitting and a guy was knitting. And I just brought a coloring book because I had like literally tapped out for the amount of creativity I had that week. But it was just really fun. And we all just chatted and got to know each other. And I'm like, yeah, these are wonderful people that I just would probably not get to know in any other context. And it was so lovely. I had such a good time, and now I'm going to go next month.
And one I forgot to mention that I just went to. And so I just went to DAX Expo, which is the Decorating Apparel Expo. Um, any of these like trade shows are often free to attend. So if there's one close to you and it's a craft you do, so this was decorated apparel, I do that. It's free to attend. It was just the gas to get there. The people that are in that room are all into the same craft that I am, right? So they took the time to like click on the Facebook ad for DAX Expo, or they took the time to research what kind of trade shows are in the area for that. Like they are committed to this craft. So it was like a room full of people that are all into the same thing that I am. So another place where you can just randomly start up a conversation with the person beside you and they're totally going to understand everything you're talking about.
I love that so much. One other thing is you could also look for conferences. There used to be so many more before COVID hit. But I mean, that's where Angie and I first met face to face, was at a crafting conference for creators. But Pinterest does Pinterest conference, and they do them all over the United States. And it's basically like, come in, make a bunch of crafts, meet all these crafty people. It's like such a great way to meet people. And it's in your community. So you can just go and maybe you'll strike up a conversation with somebody, sitting close to you. And you're like, oh, hey, we live really close to each other. We should get together sometime. That's another great one. But it can be, especially for introverts, a little bit overwhelming and a little bit hard to get to if you live far out. So.
Yeah, so definitely just like research some of these things, do some Googling, like what's coming to your area, sign up for some things. Not all of them are open to the public, but a lot of them are. And you can definitely meet some amazing people at some of these. And I would just find like just keeping my eye open. And let's face it, if you Google apparel trade show in whatever your city is, all the ads are going to come for all of those in the future. So you just have to Google it a few times and then the ads come. It's fine. And then you can start signing up for the ones that are in your area.
I love that. Another thing you can do is you can use like a website like meetup.com to find meetups for your particular craft. That's how I found the first book club I was ever in. It was so random at this bookstore and it was so fun. But there are all sorts of crafty meetups. You could also start your own and you can put it on meetup.com. And maybe you're like, okay, we're just going to have a, sip and crochet, and we're all just going to bring our crochet projects, have some wine or some, other beverage, and we're just going to get to know each other and talk about crochet, and it's going to be really fun. And I feel like those are also things that, could bring people together.
Yeah, like we've both talked about book clubs, but why can't there be a craft club? There can be a craft club.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So start a local craft club, call it the craft club, and get together and make simple crafts.
Yeah. I mean, if you have something like, say you have a Cricut machine, you can make like, okay, so say we're going to make mugs using vinyl or something. You can maybe figure out, like, go to the dollar store, find mugs, and everybody gets some vinyl and you're showing them how to use the Cricut, but you're also making friends in the process.
And I think that brings us to our next one, which was volunteering and teaching.
That very much brings us to the next one. I should have been looking farther on my own outline that I wrote.
So volunteering, offering to teach a class, senior center, school, craft store. If you have that knowledge, like Corey was saying, like how to use a Cricut machine, there are people out there that want to learn how to use a Cricut machine. And whoever wants to learn how to use a Cricut machine, they can be your friend, right? Like totally, like you can make friends this way.
Yeah, even if you are the teacher and they are the student, you're still interested in the same thing, because we're not looking at like business customer here. We're looking at, finding people who are crafty. This was crazy. Joanne flew me out to their flagship store to teach one class. So they flew me out from California when I lived there to Columbus, Ohio, I think it was, at their flagship store, which obviously no longer exists, to teach people how to make paper flowers. It was literally like a 2-hour class. I was in Columbus for a day. But there are still people that took that class who follow me on social media who I interact with regularly. And they're just people who, like, if I was in Columbus, Ohio again, I would probably get coffee with because we made this connection in this random class that I was flown out to teach. That's easy to do in your own community. You don't need a brand to fly you to teach you, make you teach a class.
You could teach monthly, you could teach once a quarter, you could teach once a year. And that is still building the connections with those people. So as you're researching, think about these places and do they accept guest teachers and volunteer? Like I will teach a class for free because I just want the interaction. I feel like it's a great place to start.
I need friends. And also, if you do have current friends who aren't crafty, make those friends crafty. Get them into crafting. So one of my best friends, she is not she will say this herself. This is not a dig at my friend. She will say she's not particularly creative. But a couple of years ago, her husband got her the little Cricut Joy, and she makes stuff all the time. And now we can talk about crafty stuff in addition to all the other stuff we connect on. So that is another way. Or maybe you have other friends that are entrepreneurs in their own right, but they aren't crafty. Connect with them as well, because you're like, I don't really have much to say to my friend who's just started her own architectural firm or whatever. But maybe you do. Maybe you actually have more in common as an entrepreneur than you think.
So now we're going to talk about building this community, and we're going to talk about some of the limitations. So yeah, this is for, first of all, you introverts. Like Corey said, we're in there with you. So some tips for introverts. First of all, starting with one connection at a time, because all this episode sounded overwhelming right now. You're like, wait a minute, that's a lot of tips. So start with one of the tips that we mentioned and think about making one connection at that event. So maybe one of the tips was like, looking for a crafting event locally. And you're like, well, our library does it. So I'm going to go to that one event. And when you're at that one event, think about, can I make one connection? And that simplifies it a little bit and you don't feel as overwhelmed.
Yeah, you don't feel like you have to get to know the 8 people at the event. You're like, you can chat with them, but you don't necessarily need to become besties with all of them, right? You're just trying to kind of find the person in the room that you vibe with, maybe get their phone number, say, hey, do you have social media? Let me follow you on Instagram. That's it. Like, go from there. It's just like one connection, I think is a great place to start. And then you can also like really lean into that written communication. So whether or not that's like sending somebody an email or a text message or an Instagram DM, I am much better like communicating all the times through the word, through words, the written word. I think just especially when I'm getting to know somebody, because what you guys don't see on here is all of our outtakes, right? You don't get to see the number of times that Angie and I flub over our words and can't remember our sentences. And we are not normally this coherent, but you get the edited version. And I feel like in real life, we mess up what we're talking about all the time. So lean into that written communication if you feel like it's really hard to have conversations with people until you get to know them better.
And that's a great place to start, written communication for introverts. So the online community section of this whole podcast might be a great place to start for you. Finding that Facebook group, typing a few questions, answering a few questions, making some connections on it. And then maybe you move to like, okay, I'm going to find a Facebook group that's local crafters. So I'm going to move to that. I'm feeling better about making connections. I'm going to move to that local Facebook group, but still it's all online. It's still written. And then eventually they're probably going to, if it's an active crafting local group on Facebook, they're going to have a meetup. And then you can kind of decide like, okay, I'm going to branch out. I'm going to go to one of these. And you can use that start with one connection tip at that time. You're going to go to that one meetup and you're going to try to make one good connection at that meetup.
Yeah. And you probably have chatted with these people now for a while. So you're like, hey, it's so nice to meet you in person. Once you have that connection, it's a little bit easier to talk to somebody than walking up to like a room full of strangers, which can be terrifying. And one thing that I do want to say here too is like, don't pressure yourself to always be on, especially if you're an introvert. The whole definition of an introvert means that you need to be by yourself or maybe with your very, small group of people to recharge. So if you're on all the time and you're like, I always have to answer my Instagram messages right away or else they're not going to want to be friends with me. No, get back to people when you are ready to get back to people. And that is totally fine. We live in this instant society and it sucks. And I just want to be able to be like, I read your text message. I will get back to you in the morning, that sort of thing. So don't put that pressure on. Like, just as you are able, respond to messages.
All right. So our next set of tips is for all those people that sort of live out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm going to start this section because I live in Tennessee on a 100-acre farm away from pretty much everything. So I'm going to kind of start this one. First of all, lean really hard on those digital spaces. It's a great place to make your initial community, and you don't have to worry about, you're thinking to yourself right now, if you literally live in the middle of nowhere, you're like, there aren't any crafters here, Angie. I don't know what you're talking about craft club. No one is here. Lean on those digital spaces at first. I feel like that's going to be where you're going to connect and find your community. Now, will you have to drive for some of these in-person things? More than likely. So I live an hour on a good day from Nashville. And let's face it, there are not many good days with traffic these days if you live around this area. So I do go to in-person things in Nashville. So I have to make the effort and drive to those things. That means I don't go as often, but I do try to put myself out there and go to some in-person things, even though they're further away.
Another fun thing I have participated in is like sort of a pen pal type craft exchange. We did these back when I used to sew. We would do like, okay, we have this little online community. Now we're all going to send each other, like we all sewed like a little zippered pouch. And they were all different. And I literally still use the one. I can't even tell you who sent it to me, but I still use it for my makeup. Like when I travel, it is so cute. It's a really nice size bag. I couldn't tell you who even got mine, but at some point we were like all, doing this. At Christmas, I have a bunch of sort of crafter friends that I met on Twitter of all places. We've now moved over to Blue Sky, but most of us are all there and they're crafty people as well. I've never met any of them in person. And we do a handmade ornament exchange during the holidays. And it's really fun because you get something in the mail, you connect with somebody, I don't know. It's just really a great way to sort of be far away, but be able to participate in that crafty sort of life.
And then if you're like, I still want to start the craft club, Angie, host virtual craft nights. You can find people just in similar time zones. Or like we have a book club and it's literally 4 time zones.
We call it the time zone book club.
Yeah, you can make it work. So find your people and just host those nights where you all craft together. And I've done these. You don't even have to all make the same thing. Yeah. So maybe like I needed to make gifts for, my grandkids, and someone else needs to make something else. And the third person is like, I really need to get on this other thing. Just get online and you're chatting and crafting at the same time. You're not making the same thing, but that's okay. It's all about the connection and the conversation.
Yeah. And then our final category is something that both Angie and I fall into. It's for people with chronic illness or limited energy. So if you haven't listened to our episode on running a small business with a chronic condition, it's really early in season 1. It's a great episode. I think it's one of our top episodes because both Angie and I struggle with chronic conditions that make running a small business more difficult. So we gave you tips and tricks for running your business with your condition. So if you want to make friends with a chronic condition, yeah, you do, because it's very isolating. So the first thing you need to do is just give yourself grace and remember that quality is more important than quantity. You are not going to have 100 friends, and that is fine. You don't need 100 friends. Even you extroverts don't need 100 friends. You need those quality, deeper relationships. So focus on building those quality, deeper relationships over trying to meet the most amount of people.
Something else, giving yourself grace over like not being able to attend everything. So one example is that there's a book club here and they do a lot of events. Like they do probably 6 events a month spread throughout the month. Some of those are on weeknights. I know that I'm not going to be able to do a weeknight event because by the time I work and make supper and get to the end of the day, I just can't do it. Like most nights I can't do it. And I'm okay with that. And I just say, okay, I'm going to do these Saturday events. Sometimes I do a Sunday event. I'm going to do those events instead. And I'm going to be okay with that. I can't attend every single one of these events. It's just too much on my body. So kind of give yourself grace there. And if you have to cancel plans, you have to cancel plans. Like sometimes it happens. Sometimes I'm just like so exhausted. Like it's just like, I'm not going to be able to do that thing that I really wanted to do. That's okay as well.
Yeah, I was supposed to go see an author speak recently, and I was just like, my body is not going to let me drive to Seattle tonight. There's just no way. And I was so bummed. But, at some point, you just have to be like, this is the body that I have right now. And I have to work within the confines of that space. And it's hard. And yeah, so we see you. It's not easy.
That's another thing. Those author events are often on a weeknight. And
Oh, it's on a
okay,
weeknight.
so I'm combining these two things. Like I live in the middle of nowhere, so I have to drive at least 45 minutes to this author event. And it's a weeknight and I just cannot do it at the end of the day. And I like was so excited about it and I was going to do it. And then I was like, there is literally no way I can go tonight.
Yeah. You know what events should have? They should have a craft at the same time. Everybody should craft well. This is my new thought.
See, crafting and books, they need to go together.
These are really our two favorite things that we talk about. There's very little else that we talk about. We're talking about crafts or we're talking about books. All right. And so we mentioned this sort of asynchronous communication before when it comes to apps. So using something like Voxer or Marco Polo, Slack, even, text messages, just something where you don't have to be answering that second. You can wait until you're in a good place to answer. I really prefer that to anything where I feel like I'm having like a real-time conversation, with whatever. Like I hate talking on the phone because if I scheduled myself to talk on the phone, I have to be feeling good to talk on the phone. I already don't like talking on the phone. So if I'm in like a place where I feel crappy, I really don't want to talk on the phone. And even sometimes, like Facebook messages can be that way. Like you're having a whole conversation and you're like, I just need to go to bed, but like we're in the middle of this conversation. So I really like that sort of Slack, Voxer sort of communication where it's not expected to have a reply that second.
Yeah, like I was going to say, if you don't want to talk to me, then call my cell phone because I'm not going to answer.
Same. Or if Angie calls me, I know there is a big problem.
Yeah, like it's something major if I'm calling your phone because I don't want to talk on the phone.
Yeah. But you will leave voice messages. You will like in Slack, you'll like talk and then we can listen to it whenever we want, which works really well as well. All right. So we honestly get this question so often. Anytime we talk about the partnerships that we have, the other people that we work with, all of this, that we decided that we're going to try and be a part of the solution more than just having this podcast, which I think gave you a lot of good tips. So we are starting a Facebook group, which is basically a find a craft buddy Facebook group. We are starting it. It is brand spanking new. So if you get in there, you're going to be some of the first people in this Facebook group. And this Facebook group is basically designed to connect you to other crafters and other crafty entrepreneurs. So it's going to be both crafters and crafty entrepreneurs. We're going to have threads for both, or, we're going to hopefully break things up by locality. We're still starting it. So don't like say like, why don't you have this yet? And we're probably like, because we hadn't even thought of that yet. So if you'd like to join that group, you can go to link.craftingcamps.com/community, or you can click that QR code if you are on YouTube. Are you excited about it, Angie?
I am. I feel like this is a lot of possibilities that we've been asked about a lot. Like how do I find people? Well, just start a thread in this group and the people will find you.
Yeah. So I think, we're going to try and maybe have some like threads for different places that people live. We might have threads for different crafts. It's kind of a mess right now, but honestly, I think it's going to be really good because people are just craving connection these days. And I think we all want to find other people that are on a similar journey to us. And this is going to be just one more way to do that.
Yeah, so feel free to join and just start chatting away and we'll just develop it as we need to. If you have ideas for the group, reach out. Like we'll figure it out as we go along and we'll make it amazing and hopefully help you find your crafty people because like this is what this episode's all about today, right? Not feeling isolated, finding other crafters, finding other small business owners.
Yeah.
All right, so we hope today's episode gave you a few ideas and maybe a little encouragement to start building your own crafty community.
And if you're feeling stuck and you don't know where to start and you're like, Corey and Angie, that still was all too overwhelming, just start with the fact that you are already here. You are already part of our community and you can join our little community group and just make those your first little steps. You are not alone. I promise. I know it can really be isolating, all of these different factors, many reasons, but we don't want you to feel alone. We are here. Our community is here. The Crafting for Profit community is here. All of our camp community is here. There are people here for you.
And then because we're just starting this, we want you to send this episode or send our group link to your crafty friends. The more people we get in there, the more connections that everyone is going to make. So we could use a little support with this as well. send this episode their way, send them the community link, and let's just get this party started.
Yes. So thank you so much for listening. And we will see you in our next episode or in the group or somewhere else online or in person. I don't know. We're gonna build a big crafty community.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.